This is a tool of death. It's not a toy. It's not a game. It's not army men. Hi everyone, welcome back to my next video. Now, today I'm going to do something that I try to never do. I am probably going to antagonize and make angry my entire audience. We're going to talk about guns. And there are a few topics in our nation right now that are more divisive than the topic of guns. And I'm going to try and find a good balance right down the middle. And that's really difficult to do. And even if I succeed, a whole bunch of you will think I am not anti-gun enough, and a whole bunch of you will think I'm not pro-gun enough. So, but I'm an equal opportunity antagonizer. So I'm expecting a whole lot of you to be unhappy with me today. At this time when our nation is so divided, I'm hoping that we can find a middle ground so that everyone comes away satisfied and not too angry. I know that's a risk, but I think it's one of the most important topics that I can cover, and I'm tired of cowering away from it because I'm going to make some of you angry. It's too important not to address it. The fear of injury and being hurt and bad people and four-legged animals and two-legged critters, that fear is so great that keeps a lot of people from coming out. And so the question of how am I going to be safe on the road is a critically important one. And for a bunch of people, the answer is obvious. You carry a gun. But is it? Now, I know for a whole lot of you, that is not the answer. And so I would like to address that and ask the question, is there anyone who should carry a gun, and who, and how do you define them? Or is there someone who definitely should not carry a gun, and who is that, and how do we define them? So that you can find a place on the continuum of extremely anti-gun and extremely pro-gun. Wherever you are, I'm not arguing with you. I think you could fit anywhere on that spectrum and be right. I don't think there's a wrong in this thing. The only wrong is when you hate the other guy for his opinion. That's the only thing we can do wrong here. So I hope you'll keep an open mind, and maybe something will come of this to help you out. First, as I've said in every video where I discuss safety, the risk to us out here is so dramatically lower than society tells us. Society fills us with fear, and so we think that we're and the idea of being out here alone or far away from people, or even with just a few other people, is so terrifying that many people won't do it. The dangers out here are so minimal. However, they do exist. There are people that are hurt. There are animal attacks, and there are people that are attacked and robbed and hurt. So it's a minimal risk, but it remains a risk. And so I've done a lot of videos on non-lethal weapons. I want to show you, if you are completely opposed to a gun, ways you can defend yourself using non-lethal weapons. And you can go take a look at those if that's what you want. But a gun is a completely viable option. Let me give you an idea of my position. I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska. I lived there over 40 years. My dad was a fanatical hunter. When I was a boy, I was given a gun, and we went out and we went shooting all the time. We went hunting. By the time I was 16, I'd killed my first bear. I had killed my first caribou. Hunting is ingrained in me. I love guns. Okay, half of the audience just turned off. Please wait, don't turn it off. I love guns. They're a tool. They're a fantastic tool. I don't have any question or problem with that. If you buy for the purpose of hunting, or if you buy a gun for self-defense, in this mind right here, that's completely valid. You're not getting any argument for me. But if you decide I will not own a gun, that's perfectly valid with me too. I understand that, and I have complete sympathy with you. So today we're going to try and figure it out. Who should have a gun and who should not have a gun? Like I said, guns are a tool. But unlike what a lot of pro-guns people will tell you, my next sentence is, yes, they are just a tool, but they are a tool of death. The reason you buy a gun, nearly everyone, 99% of the time, people buy guns because they want to kill something. They want to go and hunt and kill a deer, caribou, bear. I've killed both. I've killed lots of small game. I've shot squirrels and I've shot rabbits, and we ate everything we killed. And so I have absolutely no problem with that. I know some of you do. You're completely opposed to it. You're welcome to your opinion, but that's my personal opinion. I don't have any problem with hunting. And so a lot of people buy guns for hunting. A lot of people buy guns for self-defense. Now, this is where it gets tricky. I don't see any problem with using a gun in self-defense. I'm ready to use a gun in self-defense, but it's not a clear-cut, simple, black and white thing, is it? A lot of you, under no conditions, would kill in the name of self-defense, and I am completely sympathetic with that. All these points of view are valid. It's just that simple. It's not black and white. So you're basically, people are buying a gun either to go hunting and kill something, or self-defense, and if in the most extreme circumstances, to kill another human being, and or self-defense against a predator. You know, you might go outside and a pack of wolves is attacking your dog, pack of coyotes. Maybe you're going to kill a coyote in self-defense of your dog or of yourself. It almost never happens, but it does happen. And so, or a bear, or, you know, when I was in Alaska, I backpacked and hiked all over Alaska. I was carried a gun. I just always had a gun. It was usually a 12-gauge shotgun with slugs, or a 44 mag, which is a minimal gun. But I had a gun, because if it was me or a bear, the bear was going to die if I was capable of doing it. Now, it is a tool of death. And I know some of you pro-gun guys are going to say, yeah, but I buy it for fun. I buy it for to shoot. And plinking is, if you have a 22 rifle or a 22 handgun, plinking with that is a lot of fun. And I agree. I enjoy going plinking. That is there, but nearly everyone, anyone listening to this video, if you're going to go out and buy a gun, you're probably buying it for self-defense or for hunting, and it's a tool of death. So because it is a tool of death, and it is an exceptionally good tool of death, that gives each and every one of us enormous responsibility. When you go out and buy a tool of death, that's what it exists to do, kill. Whether I'm doing sport or competition with it, it still exists to kill. You have an enormous responsibility, and your responsibility comes down to two factors. So the first responsibility you have to answer to is, am I willing to take another human life? And if you're not, do not buy a gun, because it's going to do you more harm than it is going to do you good. And there's nothing wrong with that decision. I will not take another human life. But again, it will do you more harm than good. If you've got a gun, then you're always going to be worried about someone stealing it or losing it. And then you've got all kinds of legal problems if someone steals it or you lose it and it ends up in someone else's hands. And if you are going to just scare someone with it, some people have that idea in their mind. Well, I'm just going to scare people with it. Believe me, that's a really bad idea. You ever put ammo in it, then it becomes a hazard to anyone ever in your rig. Are there ever any children in your rig? Are there other people in your rigs? Can anyone else ever find that gun and have an accidental discharge? Accidental discharges happen. And if you buy a gun, load it, put it away, and never touch it again, the odds of you having an accidental discharge or accidentally hurting someone else are extremely high. If you're not intentionally ready to buy a gun and use it in self-defense, don't buy a gun. If you're not willing to put your whole heart into stopping someone, and that means shooting to kill, center of mass, then it's going to do you more harm than good. And it'll end up coming back and biting you in the butt, and you'll be very sorry you ever bought that gun. Now, the second responsibility is, if you decide I am ready to take another life in self-defense, and only in self-defense, not defending my property, if it's my harm, my loved one's harm, someone else's harm, or hurting them, killing them, and you're willing to do that, then your second responsibility is training. You can't just buy a gun and put it away. Go buy a gun. Go to the range, shoot up one box of ammo, 50 rounds, and then you put it away and you never touch it again. That was such a disaster waiting to happen. Don't do that. If you are not willing to go and to a gun store or a range and get training in the proper use and the safe use of your firearm, and then if you're not willing to practice with it and then continually practice with it, like once a quarter, kind of at the minimum, 4 times a year, you need to get that gun out and go shoot it and be familiar with it. Keep muscle memory up with it. Practice the shooting. Go through mentally what you're going to do in case of someone breaking into your rig. Rehearse it in your mind. Make sure you get your guns empty, or even better, buy a toy gun, a pretend gun, and reach that pretend gun out and go through the entire motions of defending yourself in your rig, whatever kind of rig you have. And better to buy a toy gun, or they make plastic guns that are usually yellow or orange or something that are used for no other reason than to practice. Get one of those. Always remember, if you're going to buy a gun, you will always know the 4 primary rules of firearms. Let me run those off on by you now. Every gun is loaded. It's impossible for a gun to be loaded. If you see a gun, it's loaded and ready to kill you or someone else. Never put your finger on the trigger unless you are willing to kill or destroy what is on the other side of the muzzle. Number 3, don't ever point the gun at anything you don't intend to kill or destroy. If you do, something's going to be killed or destroyed, because accidental discharges happen. They're not just rare events, they're common events. And number 4, always be aware, if you've decided to fire your gun, you're going to be aware of what's between you and your intended target and what is beyond your intended target. So if you shoot at something and you miss, is there a little boy playing in over there? If you're in a house, you shoot, you miss, and it goes through the drywall. What's on the other side of that drywall that's going to get killed? You are responsible for that gun at all times. And I was scared and I hadn't trained enough is not going to be an answer on any court of law. It's a huge responsibility. If you're not willing to take it, once you buy the gun, if to go and get the training from someone certified and safe, not Uncle Tom, not Joe, not Brenda, someone who is certified as a firearm instructor, spend the money. If you're not willing, and I'd go back once a year, you develop bad habits, and you don't know you're developing bad habits. So you go to a qualified instructor, he watches you and says, oh man, this is not good, you need to change this. Or he watches you and sees that you're putting your finger on the trigger all the time, and that's really easy to do. Or he sees that you're just waving the gun around, you're not thinking. You need to know that. You need a professional to watch you and keep you safe, and everyone that you're ever around safe. That's your responsibility. It's an enormous responsibility. You must never fail. If you find that you bought the gun, you put it away, you never touch it again, get rid of that gun. Take it to a firearms dealer and trade it in. He'll go through the whole process of the paperwork of changing ownership legally, and you will be free and clear on that gun. This is a tool of death. It's not a toy. It's not a game. It's not army men. It's not, well, one day I'll have to use it and I'm not going to think about it again until then. No, 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 no. It is the biggest responsibility you'll take in your whole life. So, who should own a gun? Number 1, someone who is certain that they are ready to use that gun and kill with it. And number 2, someone who is prepared to take the full weight of responsibility that a tool of death brings into your life and into your rig, and that is to continually train and practice, maintaining your skills, the muscle memory, watching out for bad habits that you're picking up on, and only someone else can see those and alert you to them. So that's it. That's who should own a gun. And anyone that doesn't fall on those, well, I think everyone falls on those. Every person listening to this, those 2 apply to you. And for a bunch of you, owning a gun is the perfect choice. And for a bunch of you, never touching a gun in your whole life is a great choice. And only you can decide that. I hope you got something out of this, and it made you think about the enormous responsibility of owning a gun. I know a bunch of you have guns. You have them stored away. You haven't touched them in a year, haven't fired them in 5 years. I think you should really give serious thought to that, whether that wisdom of owning that. You're going to pick a gun up. You're not going to know how to use it. You're going to shoot yourself. You're going to shoot an innocent bystander. Okay, now the next question is, and this is an enormous question. This is another video. I've decided to buy a gun, and I'm a nomad, and I'm driving from state to state. What about all the different state laws? Am I going to be arrested for simply owning a gun legally in my own rig? If I go to California and accidentally my gun is illegal, will I get arrested? What am I going to do as I travel? I'll do a separate video on that, so come back and watch that, how to legally and safely carry a firearm. I feel like I have an obligation to you, my audience, to take the risk of losing some of you, of offending some of you, and I'm sure I have, but I owe it to the rest of you that this is a subject that needs to be addressed in all honesty and in all the integrity that I have to muster. So hope you got something out of this video. Gave you some serious food for thought. If you did, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, give it a thumbs up so other people will watch this. Watch the crazy man dig a deep hole he can't get out of, and I'll see you on the next video.